I was looking up the history of eggplants, and they actually were cultivated in India 4,000 years ago. And then they were picked up by the Chinese about 5th century BC. They grew them quite a bit, and after that the Arabic traders took the eggplants, the seeds and the plants, to the Mediterranean areas. So that's why we have countries like Egypt and Turkey and Greece and Italy having so many wonderful eggplant dishes, because they were brought there by the traders. The Europeans didn't like the taste of the eggplant. It was very bitter, but they did like the way it appeared, because it's related to the tomatoes and potato family. So it's a very beautiful garden plant. So it was mainly grown in their garden as an ornamental planting. And then Thomas Jefferson is supposedly responsible for taking it to North America. And he had a great garden near Washington. I think it was called Monticello or something. And he was a famous gardener besides being one of the presidents of the States. So he started it in North America. And to give you a little further history on it, when the Chinese got it, now I couldn't believe this when I read it, but the aristocratic ladies used to use the dark purple skin and brew it up and make black dye that they painted their teeth with. So forget white strips. They liked the black luster on their teeth enamel, so they used it for that. And today China is the biggest producer of eggplants. They produce 59% of the world's eggplant production. A lot of people call it a vegetable, but it is actually a fruit. And it's very beneficial for your health because it's high in fiber, especially if you leave the skins on. And it has a lot of vitamins and minerals in it. And it is also an antioxidant, which means it hooks up with the free radicals in your body and scavenges them off. So right now scientists are doing studies to see if it will help lower cholesterol and blood pressure and help with diabetes.
You can do all sorts of stuff with it. They're a very versatile vegetable. You can boil them, you can grill them, you can, like say, medallion them and cook them. It's not a common dish. But anyway, one of my favorite things to do is use them as a lasagna noodle substitute in lasagna. But if you're going to do that, you want to make sure you use noodles as well. So when you layer them, you do a layer of noodles, and then your next noodle layer would be eggplant, then a layer of noodles, and then your last layer of noodles, then the noodles is eggplant again. So then your top doesn't get all crunchy the way noodles often do. My mom's caregiver is from the Philippines, and she said they boil them, and then they cut them in half and scoop up the flesh, and of course it's all soft and mushy, and they mush it up, and then they add egg. It's about two-thirds egg to 1/3 eggplant. Mush it all up and then fry it like an omelet. And then you can add some vegetables, you can add some cheese, you can do all sorts of fun stuff with it. And you have eggplant.
So what have you got? 3 different varieties?
Actually, we have 4 different varieties. Yeah. We have the shoya long. They're the long skinny guys with the black tops on top, and they're Japanese eggplant. Okay. And then we have purple fingers, and they are like a little purple finger, I guess, and they've got the green tops on them. So they're slightly different. These guys have got a very, very thin skin. As such, they actually don't have a very long shelf life, but they're really very, very tender to eat. They're lovely, and you can eat the skin on them. You can eat the skin on any eggplant, but on the larger eggplants are often tougher skin. Not as pleasant to eat. So, and then we also have your traditional teardrop eggplant, which is, most people know. And I know ours are quite small. We don't let them get too big.
You know, sometimes the ones in the grocery store are just too big.
But when they're too big, they start going seedy, and then they're bitter, and you have to salt them, and it's pain and all that stuff. Yeah. So these guys should not be bitter. We try to harvest them before they get too soft. These are called sabelles, and sabelles are a lot sweeter, I think. It's a funny word to use with eggplant, but they are really sweet. They're very, very tasty. The first 2 years, I started them in my house, but I had literally plants everywhere. So we've had Beltane and Morris, and it's great. They're wonderful.